All right, this is the Cafe Racer Podcast, episode 59 for July 20th, 2014. I'm Crash.
I'm Steven.
All right, so how's it going, man?
The level of frustration is just increasing daily with owning an Italian motorcycle.
Yeah?
Yeah. Today was a good day, though, on a Triumph. So I spent the day out on the Tiger,
Okay.
and everything else was going good. But we'll talk about the beating my head against the wall later on.
Yeah, it seems like we did a little bit of that just getting this going. I mean, the intro went great, but the pre-intro today is what was rough. Silly Google Hangouts.
What happened with Google Hangout?
I don't know. It's like it just went crazy. All of a sudden, wouldn't do anything.
I need to like put the link up for the new one on here. I don't know if I can actually do that. Let me see if I can, but
I don't know.
for people that were going to, because we had at least one or two listeners that had signed up to listen, so
Yeah.
I will post our page on here
Okay.
and see if do you have a link too that
Yeah, I can get you one. And
okay. Yeah, send me the link and I'll post it up. And look, we apologize for the weirdness that took place here, but Google's kind of finicky. We started a Hangout and got it going and turned the Q&A on, and then all of a sudden we couldn't do any invites. So I don't know if it's because I turned the Q&A on. All right, here's our link. Let me copy this.
yeah, I don't know. Suddenly I wouldn't see the invites, and then we decided, oh, well, I'll just start it, and then you might see the invites, and nope. None of that worked either.
Yeah.
That's why I decided today's episode is Technology Sucks.
Yeah, I like that. Technology's.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
We've both been having vehicle-related issues. Mine is with my truck, and yours is with your bike.
the bike, it just, and the frustrating thing about it is it's new. It's a new bike. It's got
Yeah.
20,000 miles on it. It shouldn't be doing this, but just for a quick recap to tell you what happened. So I was complaining in the last show about the bike seeming like it was running hot, overheating. And it's an air-cooled motorcycle, so there's no temp gauge on it, which I'm gonna add something to the dipstick. I'm gonna put a temp gauge on there.
Yeah.
Before I went to North Carolina, I dropped it off at the dealership, and they said they'd take a look at it. When I got back, they said, "Oh, it's done. The valve adjustment was out." I'm like, "Really?" So the exhaust is supposed to be 0.2 millimeters. They said it was at 0.35. Now I know I had checked it before I had taken the bike down there, and there's a couple listeners that gave me some tips about feeler gauges, and I'll read the emails that I got. And I went and picked it up, and it seemed to be running better, but I just loaded it on the trailer, got it home, took it to work the next day. It felt like it was running hot still. And got home from the commute on work, and there's oil all over my left pant leg. So, and I could see, and I looked down a couple times, I saw some oil on the engine guard. Got home, I looked, and to me it looked like the valve cover gasket was leaking.
Right.
So I called them up and I said, "Look, I don't know what you guys did or if it's pinched, but can you just send me another one and I'll replace it?" And he's like, "Let me talk to the tech," and he calls me back and he says, "Well, they think it might be there's a seal in the valve itself, and we want you to bring it in." I said, "Well, if that was leaking, there's a weep hole that it would be coming out of, but you know what? I'll load it on the trailer. I'll come down after work." I brought it down there again. They're like, "No, it was a valve cover gasket. We'll replace it real quick and you'll be on your way." Okay.
It's like, oh, it was that thing you thought it was.
Yeah, it's twice, So now, last night, I take the bike out and I hear a ticking noise, not a valve ticking noise, exhaust ticking. Tick, 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 tick. Rev it up, it gets quicker. Oh man! So I ride the bike, and then all of a sudden I've got a much louder exhaust noise. So this morning, I got home last night. I was frustrated. This morning, I pulled out of the garage. I started up, exhaust leak. and it's from the other header now, not the one that I had when I was on the trip, and it's blowing out, and that's where the heat's coming from. So I tried to tighten the clamp, no, so it blew the gasket out again of the opposite header. So how the Stelvio works is there's two headers come down from each cylinder.
Mm-hmm.
They come down underneath in the middle. They have two connectors that mount into a single, and that's where the O2 sensors are. There's one you can see on the left side of the bike. The other one's underneath the bike. The one that blew out on the trip was on the left side. This one's underneath. So I'm going to call them tomorrow. If it's covered under warranty, it's going to go back down there for a third time. Hopefully this will get the whole thing cleared up. You know, and that was the strange thing was we got an email from a listener, which well, Jeff Johnson's his name, and he sent a really cool picture to me of a tank that he's working on that I'll post. But he also talked about picking up. He sent me a link for a Harbor Freight laser thermometer, which I ended up picking up after I bought one. I bought a Ryobi from Home Depot, returned it because the Harbor Freight actually had a better range. And when I was shooting, you know, temp readings from the cylinder and the case, they were basically within the limits that the guys at the shop told me they were supposed to be in. So I couldn't figure out why I was getting this feeling. And then I'm starting to think maybe I'm just going insane. Maybe it is the weather and people are right. But I've been riding a motorcycle for a long time and something's wrong. Well, there it is. And you know, the really funny part about it is it was much worse when I was sitting at traffic. So it
Mm-hmm.
seemed like all that exhaust gas coming up from the center of the bike was just coming up through the motorcycle, and that's where I was getting the heat from. So, you know, it's funny because I have so many of my friends, and this keeps ringing in my ears. Get rid of the Italian motorcycle. You're not having nothing but problems with it. I'm really hoping that's not the truth, and that I'm just having a bad experience for one thing that we missed. But
Right.
you know, if Honda comes out with this Africa Twin they're talking about at sub 400 pounds for 1,000 cc's, I don't know.
That'd be hard to beat.
I
If they
don't
really
know.
do come out with a bike that's that light, I don't I don't know how I could convince myself to get anything else.
Well, the truth of the matter is, to keep it that light, it's probably going to be chain driven.
Yeah,
And I
true.
kind of always thought that, you know, that I would want to stick with the shaft. So we'll see. I've seen a couple like mock-up pictures of it. Nothing real. I didn't want to post anything because I don't think anything's real yet. And talked to some guys at the dealership, and they're like, we haven't heard anything. So maybe they'll release some information at the AIM Expo. But I'm just seeing how are they going to make it, maybe a parallel twin. You know, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Or
Sub
a
400
V.
pounds.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting unless they use really light frame materials and. But
It seems like sub 400 seems a little on the extreme side, like the probably not likely to come out of Honda. You know, like maybe some little boutique manufacturer using ultra light, super expensive materials, but it doesn't seem like something Honda would do.
no, you know, I don't know. We'll find out. I'm gonna go by and visit them. I don't know if they're going to be at AIM, but I'll probably make it to Daytona also because we've
Hmm.
got some interesting stuff going on there too. I don't know, we'll see. It's funny
Yeah.
though, when I went to the gas station this morning, there's more and more Triumphs showing up now. There was 3 Thruxtons in the gas station parking lot today.
Cool. On the way
Yeah.
to work the other day, I rode again, and there were 5 Triumphs in our little motorcycle parking area. 2 Bonnevilles, like mine and another one, and then 3 Daytonas.
Well, do you know the guys that ride the other ones?
Yeah, they all work with me. They're all at my squadron. So,
So what's the cafe scene like there now in San Diego? Have you had an opportunity to
geez,
check it out or?
not yet really. It's been so hectic. Like my schedule's just weird because I work nights, so I work
Mhm.
from 3 p.m. to almost 3 a.m. So like weeknight stuff, I can't even go. So like if there's like a Wednesday night bike night or something like that, I don't even know what's happening. But if there's any listeners out there that are around San Diego, I know we've got a couple that know of anything, then feel free to let me know because every now and then I have a night off that I don't expect. So
How
if
long
I
is that
can make
schedule
it, I
going to
will.
stay? Do you guys bid for that or something, or is it just you get assigned to it?
I just get assigned to it, and then I know that it will change when the guy that is running the shift on the same shop on days, he's going to be going out on deployment, but we don't have dates for his deployment yet, so I
Mm,
don't even know when that's going to happen. It could be, in a few months. It could also be in a year. Not really sure.
right.
Um, but yeah, and I'm hoping maybe. It was funny. My wife actually even mentioned because I met the owner of the other Bonneville the other day. I
Hmm.
mean I've let me rephrase that. He and I had met before. I mean we work in the same building, but neither of us knew that the other guy owned the other Bonneville that's in the parking lot. Um, and so I saw him with his helmet, and I was like, "Hey, is that your Bonneville out there?" And he goes, "Yeah." And we started talking. Um, and when I came home, I mentioned to my wife, "I was yeah, I met the other guy that rides a Bonneville." And he goes, and she's like, "Oh, well, that'd be cool for you to find somebody to ride with finally, or whatever." And I was like, "Wow, this is bad." When even my wife is like encouraging me to get out of the house and go ride.
You can't leave. You're
Yeah,
bothering me,
yeah,
right?
go away. um, but it's actually I will be going away here for like 3 weeks. On Wednesday, I leave to go up to Seattle on a ship for Seattle Seafair.
What's the Seattle Seafair? Like a
It's it's kind of like a Fleet Week thing, like they do in New York or San
yeah, we
Francisco.
have that in Fort Lauderdale, like Navy Days and stuff, and Fleet Week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Seattle calls theirs Seafair. Um, there's going to be a bunch. There's going to be a couple Navy ships, and then a bunch of other like there's some sail ships and stuff like that, and people can go take tours. And our squadron's going to provide an aircraft for like demonstration, like it's just going to be out on the ship so they can walk around and there'll be
Hmm.
people to talk to about it.
So what do you gotta do? Just talk to people? Stand there and talk to people? Or do you gotta
Yeah, and
actually
I
do
don't.
work?
I won't even really necessarily have to do that because generally when we have that sort of stuff, the pilots and the air crewmen are the ones that do the talking. Um, we just stand a couple of watches during the port visit, and the rest of the
Right.
time we go out and try not to be too stereotypical sailors.
Right. Hey, so what's that thing you got growing on your face?
It's a little mustache. It's starting to come in. It's been a couple of days since I've shaved, but I figured I'm gonna be gone, so I might as well grow something disgusting on my lip, so while my wife isn't, gonna be around to tell
That
me
looks like
no.
something out of Top Gun. I'm sorry.
Well, later on today, actually, I was gonna put on some jeans and go play some beach volleyball with no shirt on. So
And
that's
flex when you're out there and stuff.
that's the plan anyway.
Yeah, right. So, anyway, I made a little trip over to Harley Davidson yesterday.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and in my hot little hands, I have the brochure for the street, which they had a 750 sitting in there. And
Oh, they actually had one. Cool.
yeah, they had one. But check this out. It's got. Can you see that? Cafe inspired speed screen.
Really?
Yeah, Crash. That thing is tiny.
Oh, is it really?
It is, and I'll post some pictures. I have some pictures parked next to an 883, and it's the wheelbase. It just feels dimensionally small. Like I sat on it and I felt like I was on one of those motorcycles in front of the grocery store on the box that rocks up and down.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the bike, it looks kind of cool. There's some nice styling features to it. You can tell the motor is a water cooled motor because there's a water jacket around the motor. There's no fins. And then I kind of walked around it a little bit, took some more pictures, and went and grabbed a salesman. The funny thing about, I don't know if this is just this particular Harley Davidson dealership is, but nobody walks up to you and says anything to you.
Hmm.
You walk in there, and you walk in the door, and they have some Sportsters to the right, and then all the bulk of their motorcycles are to the left, with also some more Sportsters. But there was one street sitting there. It was a 750, and I went over and I grabbed the guy, and I said, started asking him some questions about the bike, and he says, "Are you interested in buying one, or you just want to know the questions?" I said, "I just want to know," and I told him what we do, and I said, "I'm kind of interested in some information for the show to talk about it." And he kind of talked to me a little bit, and he was pretty friendly, and I said, "So, are you now going to change your focus of what you're going to recommend as an entry-level motorcycle for people when they come in the door for this?" And he says, "No." And I said, "Okay." I said, where do you see this going?" And he said, to probably smaller stature women, younger kids maybe in college that don't have a lot of income to spend, or some entry-level riders. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. And then I said to him, well, typically if somebody walks in here that's a first-time rider, has never owned a motorcycle before, and they've seen the bikes and they say, I want a street glide, what do you sell them? He goes, we sell them whatever they want. Now, he did kind of preface it a little bit to say, maybe he's ridden the bike before, maybe he's got friends that have had one, or he's had some time on a motorcycle. He goes, but I'm going to sell somebody what they want because I want them to be happy. I don't want them to leave with the bike and then be unhappy about it. But the
Mhm.
feeling I got was this is going to go to the way of the Buell, that
Yeah.
they're going to ignore the motorcycle. It's going to sit in there and they're going to be like, yeah, we got that over there, but that's not what you want. I just had that feeling. Um, he told me, which I don't believe is correct, that it is a 883 motor in there basically, and it's not.
No.
Um, it's it's not at all. I mean,
It's
there's
not
not.
even the same V shape. Like the 883 is a 45-degree V, and the 750 and the 500 are I'm pretty sure they're a 60-degree V.
Let me see. So I got the brochure. Brochure is actually kind of a poster, but
Yeah, it looks kind of like newspaperish.
well, on both sides, because
Oh,
here's the inside of it. It's just got the bike, and then on the
yeah.
other side is this with some specs printed on it.
Huh.
So let's see. It
I think,
doesn't.
one of the things that's going to be difficult is, I mean, Harley can come out with a a new motorcycle all they want, but until they get the dealer culture to change, or like the rider culture that they've sort of fostered over the years to sort of shift its focus, I don't know that they're ever going to have an easy time with their dealers being willing to point somebody in that direction. I mean, and I've I haven't been in a ton of Harley dealerships, but of the ones that I've been in, I don't very often run into any that they would where I feel like they would try to steer me onto something I should ride as opposed to something I think is cool and want to ride.
Yeah, and I don't. Just one of the things he said to me when we were kind of chatting back and forth, and I was asking some questions. He goes, why don't you just buy a Harley Davidson so you know what you're talking about?" And I was respectful and polite. I didn't make anything. I just said, it's just really not for me. I said, I don't really like that feet forward feeling. And he said, hey, try this bike over here. It was a Dynaglide that was called a bobber, which actually kind of was comfortable, and it's just not my thing though, not my styling. And I agree with you completely that they're really more about selling a culture and a lifestyle. And to them, this bike, in my opinion, doesn't fit into it. Oh, and he was really, really negative about the live wire. He was like, they're not even going to sell that motorcycle. Because that may not even happen for 6 years, 5 or 6 years. Because they're not selling that. He goes, until they get up a 250-mile range on that battery, they're not going to. I'm like, well, there's other bikes out there with a 100-mile range, and they're selling.
Yeah.
So I just don't get the sense that, like you said, that the dealers themselves and the guys that work in the shop are buying into it.
Yeah, I mean, and we can preface this by saying this was one salesman at one dealership. I'm
Absolutely, 100%. I'm sure if I went someplace else, it might be a different story. Uh, I just noticed something really funny and I didn't realize this. He said they had a 500 in there, but it sold. Those bikes dimensionally are identical,
hmm
including weight. So the only
Yeah, I figured
difference,
it was just a cylinder head size,
yeah, that's it.
or yeah, like a jug size.
67.99 for the XG 500 and 74.99 for the XG 750. I also asked him about fit and finish compared to the bikes, and he said it's not the same. So it's hard for me to tell looking at it. It looked really nice. It looked like it shared some items. The controls on the switches, the gauge cluster looked to be the same that were on the Sportster. So I don't know. We'll see. After that, I went over to the local Honda, Kawasaki, whatever dealership, and sat on the little 500s that they have, the two of those, and I was kind of impressed, man. Those were some cool little bikes. I
hmm
liked them. Sat on the Cowie, the new Ninja 300. That was a neat little bike, and the guys in there were really excited about the smaller and mid-sized displacement motorcycles. The sales guy that I talked to was really knowledgeable, and I kind of posed the same question to him because I was curious about first-time buyers, and he says, I really spend a lot of time sizing people up first before I either make a recommendation to them or, try to steer them away from the leader bike that they came in to buy.
Yeah.
So I said, how do you feel about these? And he was like, yeah, we recommend medium and small displacement bikes all the time. But they had some nice bikes there. It was kind of cool. The new Valkyrie was sitting in there too.
So really quick, I wasn't able to find it on Harley's website, but according to Cycle World, Um, it is a 60-degree V, which means that it's not even the same angle engine
Right.
as a Sportster. So the guy's, I mean, he doesn't sound like he was the most informed, and it sounds like he didn't. He doesn't sound like he was the most willing to become informed
No, I don't think
about
he
the
really
bike.
wanted to talk about it. Honestly, I don't think he. I thought he kind of felt like he wasn't making a sale. So
Yeah,
you know, and so whatever. We'll see what happens. I mean, I just thought it was kind of interesting the verbiage they had on about the cafe inspired thing. But
yeah, that is kind of funny.
I'm hoping for Harley Davidson's sake and for motorcycling in general that they'll embrace this and they'll sell them and they'll get them out there and maybe it'll bring people in to motorcycling in general that wanted to have that Harley lifestyle but might not necessarily been able to afford a new bike at that price, you know. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But it was good to kind of see that. He said they're going to have some demo rides in October. So unless I get a chance to ride one in Daytona for Biketoberfest, or if I do it at the dealership, I'm looking forward to at least trying to. I can tell you right now, from sitting on it, it's not going to be a comfortable ride for me
Yeah.
anyway,
I might
because I
try
felt cramped.
here in San Diego to get on one if I can.
But we'll see. I'm glad that they're innovating and trying something new, especially with the other bike, the Livewire. So we'll
Yeah, the
see.
live wire looks really cool. It'd be great if it had a little longer range, but they're working on it.
And you think that's probably just a matter of battery technology?
Yeah, I mean, well, they're probably I don't know exactly, but they're probably looking to get something more in like performance wise than say like a zero does,
Hmm.
And so they went with more strict, I think, design constraints as far as like it has to look a certain way, which may have limited them on space for stuff.
The funny thing is, a couple people were talking about it this morning, and they felt that it looked more like a motorcycle than any of the other electric bikes that were out there.
Oh, it
So
definitely does. I think it
yeah,
looks more similar to other motorcycles.
right.
Um, Something that I don't know if it's gonna have much of an effect on the electric motorcycle industry, though. Tesla released all their patents
Hmm.
for like free for companies to use and to try to innovate on and stuff like that for all their battery technology. And um, the way that they're putting their batteries together and the kinds of batteries they're using weren't really like officially known up to this point. And so I'm wondering if like somebody like Zero is going to look at that and go, oh, this is actually maybe a better use than what we're doing, and they'll alter their own, uh, vehicles in the future to incorporate the new sort of innovation that Tesla has been using.
Hmm.
Because literally, and a friend of mine at work is super, super heavy into electric vehicles. And we were looking at it at some downtime, and they're literally laptop batteries. Like if you take a laptop battery apart, that sort of like gray or black, weird shaped little brick thing that's attached to your laptop. If you take that apart, inside are these little individual batteries that are just all stuck together.
Like cylinder
Um,
batteries, the same
yeah,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, they kind of look like a AAA, only they're a little different shape or whatever, but it's the same kind of idea. And that once Tesla released the thing that said, here's the batteries we're using and how we're putting them together, there's guys on like the do-it-yourself electric vehicle forums and stuff
Hmm.
showing how to strip apart these laptop batteries and they're the same batteries that Tesla's using. And so you can build this DIY electric vehicle using the same batteries and the same circuitry and all that sort of stuff.
What's the technology? Is it lithium ion?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, they're lithium ion. I can't remember. There's like a certain number. They're like Lenovo laptop batteries, basically, just all taken apart and then numbered in the thousands.
So if that's the case, then you're not constrained to any type of shape.
Nope.
If you're using a cylinder, you could wrap it around something, right? I mean,
Yeah.
in a bank, right?
Yeah. I mean, like,
Interesting.
I know that Toyota and probably Tesla also, um, it's like the whole floor pan, and so it contours with the floor pan. is just this layer of batteries along the bottom.
Tesla's supposed to come out with an affordable car for, I mean,
Yeah, like I think it's the Model 3
okay.
is their most is supposed to be their model, their like affordable one. It's $35,000 for a Tesla Model 3.
You know, was there at some point, because somebody had said this to me the other day, that uh, Tesla had filed bankruptcy or they were going out of business or something like that? Was that like a temporary thing for
I don't
reorganization or
I don't
not the
know
case?
anything about that. I
Okay.
could look it up while we talk about other stuff.
Well, here, let me. I got an email, and this I wanted to read this because it was a good tip. But we got an email from Kurt Watera. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing his name right. And when we were discussing checking valves, he gave me a really good tip on something I'm going to pick up. But he says use a go no go feeler gauge when adjusting your valves. He goes, the set has two sizes on each blade, such as .004 and .005. To set your valves to 4,000th, you would slide the gauge in so both the .004 and .005 would go in, then adjust until the 005 stops going in. No need to clean the oil off, and this method does away with the feel variances. Get this feeler gauge at most auto parts stores. I've been a mechanic since 1967. This is what I use, and most mechanics who adjust a lot of valves. So thanks a lot, Kurt. I'm going to definitely get that set and use it the next time I do the valves because everything I read was talking about getting the right feel, and the reason I talked about the oil was some guys said, use some brake cleaner to take away the oil from the tappet. That way there's nothing in there interfering with it. This seems like it might be a lot better way of going.
Yeah, that's really
Uh,
cool. I don't have that kind of feeler gauge. Actually, you know what? I think
I
I
just
might
have the
have that kind
blades.
of feeler gauge. Now that
Yeah,
I
mine are
don't
just
know.
blades.
I'm not sure. I've never paid a whole lot of attention to mine, but I don't know. Maybe I do have one like that, and I have been using it wrong this whole time. Um, because what I usually do is my valve spec is like 0.10 to 0.20. That's
Uh-huh.
minimum to maximum. I'll make a 0.11 stack so to see if it, or I mean a point 0.9 stack, for like,
Right.
or 0.99 stack for like just or whatever it is, 0.09. That's right. Math is hard. Sorry. Stack, so that's like if that fits in, I know that it's too small. Uh, or if that doesn't fit, then I know that everything's too small, like it's too tight, and then I'll make one that's 1,000th too big and see if that fits in, as kind of like just a quick check to find out, like, if if 1,000th over the maximum slides in just fine, then I know that my valve's
I, I
too loose.
swear I did that when I checked the valves the last time. So the
Yeah,
fact that they were telling me that they were at 0.35, I just really had a hard time swallowing.
yeah. I
Because
want to
I
take a look
tried
at
the
my feeler
next.
gauge now and see if I have
Well,
one of these no-go ones.
so what they look like is, because I wasn't 100% sure until I looked at it right now, and I might even have a set of these in the garage. It's got a range on it. So
Yeah,
they'll say .004 to .006, and that's the range on there. So the gauge is basically tapered.
yeah. I'm looking at the
So
same thing.
yeah, I'm gonna try. I might have a set of these in the garage. I'll have to try because I inherited a bunch of stuff from my dad, and my dad was all about gauges and valves and stuff. And then the other thing somebody told me was use a dial indicator. They said
Yeah.
that $35 you can clamp it on part of the motorcycle, and you get a correct thing. I'm stuttering here because we're getting a bunch of comments from Master Pikachu.
Oh, yeah. I see that.
Yeah, they make absolutely
They're
no
not
sense
they're
at
not
all.
very useful
Right.
questions.
Anyway, thanks Pikachu. I didn't know that you guys were still alive. I thought they all went extinct. The Pikachus. Okay, so back to reality now.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's see events. We've got the AIM Expo coming up in October, which I'm planning on going for sure. There is also Oktoberfest the same weekend. So I think what I'm going to do is trailer up a bike and ride over to Daytona from Orlando. It's only about an hour ride.
Yeah.
And there's some events going on. So we're going to talk about it in an upcoming show when it gets a little bit closer and maybe have a guest on to talk. But for those of you that live within a traveling distance of the AIM Expo, I highly recommend you go. because I think it's shaping up to be better than the International Motorcycle Show, the IMS show. And we
Yeah,
don't
it
get the
really
IMS
sounds like
show
it.
down here. Yeah, it's going to be cool, and they cut it down to something reasonable now, so it's 2 days. But there'll be a lot of demos, which is going to be neat. And I'm thinking that EBR may actually have demos on the bikes that they're releasing now.
I saw I don't remember where I saw it, but I could have swore I saw some leak of something saying that they were um, going to debut the AX at the AIM Expo.
They talked about that last year, and if they do, I'm looking for something, you know, a la Ulysses maybe. Uh, I'd be really surprised if they went with a 19 or larger inch front wheel. I'm just thinking it's going to be a 17 in the front, but that would be cool if they did.
Yeah.
You know, there's when you talk about these big leader,
Everything I'm seeing is talking about last year's thing, so I don't know. Maybe not.
I saw the new Aprilia Capo Nord,
Hmm.
and it's a 17-inch front wheel. You know, so there's this difference between these bigger adventure bikes, and you know, I know the reality of it is that they're still 600-pound motorcycles, and they the ones like the Ducati Multistrada and the Capo Nord and the one that MV Agusta is coming out with are really, in my opinion, long suspension travel touring bikes. Maybe they sit a little higher, they're more comfortable,
Hmm.
but I don't think they're ever going to meet the class of what the GS is. You know, I don't know. I could be wrong. You know,
Yeah.
I like to imagine that anything that's got a bigger front tire on it is a little bit more worthy off road, but I think it also has to do with a lot of other things. You know, have you
Um,
seen any of those bikes?
what size is the front tire on your Stelvio?
19.
Yeah.
It's a 19-inch, and these are 17s.
Yeah,
The
the 17s are the same size wheels that are on, just about everything else.
Well, in the Ulysses, the turning radius was, I think the geometry was kind of short. The turning radius was kind of weird on it, so
Hmm.
that was kind of panned for that. And you know, when they first came out, I looked at one and I liked it, but until I went and sat on it in the dealership, and it just didn't feel right sitting on it. So I ended up not getting one. I'm kind of glad I didn't at this point.
Yeah, knowing what happened with Buell. That's for you, Chuck.
Right.
You and
I'd
your
actually, if I could
Ulysses
find like a used
X-Wing.
the light the X, what is it, XB2, the little one that they had that
Oh,
was
the
out.
not the you mean like the with the fuel in the frame ones?
Yeah.
The XB9?
Yeah, the XB9, the one with that had the Sportster mode. I mean, if I could find one of those things cheap, I thought they were cool. That'd be a
Yeah.
neat bike to ride around on.
I got a
You know,
chance to ride. So are you thinking of the one that had the little fairing or the one that just had the little like bug eye headlights?
the little bug eye headlight deal.
Okay, yeah. So that was the Lightning. And right after I bought my Speed Triple, um, I was a guy I knew was looking at a used bike that the local Harley dealership was selling, and he goes, "Hey, come over here. I know, like, take a look at this thing." And I was just riding around, so I did, and um, I pulled up on my Speed Triple, and then I talked to them, and they had a demo XB12 there.
Mhm.
And I was like, "Hey, do you think I could take a ride on this thing?" And they were like, "Well, what do you think?" I was like, "Well," and I fed them a line about how I wasn't sure that I was going to keep my Speed Triple and maybe I would trade it in, and they're like, "Okay, sure."
Liar.
Um, yeah. And they were like, "Well, be careful. This bike's really, really easy to wheelie. It's got a lot of torque, and then, uh, you know, this whole spiel." And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, okay, I got it." And I'm not like some super expert at wheeling. I'm not even remotely good at it. But I had power wheelied the Speed Triple several times by accident after I first got it, and I was not having any luck getting the front wheel up on the Lightning. The Lightning. I know that it can be done, but um, it really didn't feel nearly as fun as I was expecting because I'd been riding the Speed Triple.
Right.
Because I think the Triple really did a great job of blending the torque and the high speed, the top speed, the horsepower of
Hmm.
a four cylinder, as opposed to the Lightning, which just is a it's a giant, heavy 1200cc Harley motor,
Right.
you know, in a very lean sport bike frame
With weird geometry.
with weird geometry.
Yeah. I rode a 1098 Street Fighter, and that scared the living crap out of me. That was a real wheelie monster too.
Which one? Sorry.
Ducati 1098 Street Fighter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That was one of the guys had one, and then he ended up getting rid of it, and he got a Tuono, which is another torquey monster. So
I can't imagine what it'd be like to ride Alonzo Bowden's Street Fighter that was not a Street Fighter originally. His
right,
1098 or 1198, whatever, whichever one it is.
right.
Because that thing is like built completely out. Plus, it was already the sport bike one, not the Street Fighter one that he's turned into a Street Fighter. So.
I had a chance to ride a 748 today too, an older
Nice.
one that was that a guy picked up. He got an unbelievable deal on it, but man, what a fun bike to ride. I had a good time on that. And I guess being a motorcycle addict, I'm kind of one of those people that I'll get on a bike and for the most part find something that I like about it, no matter what,
Yeah.
And that's probably not a good thing when you're addicted to motorcycles, because then that just means you want to have it in the garage,
Yeah, pretty much. The thing that I always thought it was funny about the older Ducatis was they had that like pad on the back of the tank because their tanks were super boxy.
hmm
It's like the anti-nut bashing pad.
Yeah, this thing had this bike was decked out with a lot of carbon fiber that wasn't just for show. It was kind of cool. It had stuff all over it, and it was done up in the Infistrada paint. It was neat, man. And he had like 3-section pad on the top and sides, the knee grip pads on the side, and then the one on the top, and then one on the front for the family jewels. And it was funny when I got on the bike. He says, "Hey, man, make sure you take your belt off." So I'm like, "Yeah, no problem." Didn't want to scratch anything up on it, but it was cool. It was a lot of fun. That's the nice thing about having a bunch of buddies that got neat bikes is, most of them will let you ride them. So,
Yeah.
but it was fun getting out on the Tiger too, because I haven't ridden that bike in a while, and the more I ride it and the more I run that motor up to like close to 10,000 RPMs, it just starts to scream. And I didn't used to really like that bike, but the more I ride it now and the more I understand how to shift that bike, it's really, really smooth. So if you keep the revs up and you only do like a quarter inch or less of clutch on that thing, it's just click, 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 and it's a lot of fun to ride. I'm gonna miss it. So that was the other thing too. This Ducati had GP shifting on it, which makes a whole lot more sense once you've tried it. Have you ever ridden like
You
that?
mean like the 1 up, 5 down?
Yeah.
I've never ridden a bike like that, but it does make a lot of sense. Like to go up, you want to just stomp down on the gears as opposed to having to hook your foot up underneath. And
Right. And so there's no linkage on that either. They take the linkage off on that particular bike on the Ducati, so it's just a lever coming out of the transmission. And man, it just took me a second to get used to it. I mean, as soon as I got on the bike, I shifted into second gear, and he's like, "You're in second gear." I go, "Yeah, that's right, I forgot." So clicked it up into first, and then riding, and it's just bam, 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 bam. And he said it's even better with a quick shifter without having to use the clutch. But it was neat. It was it definitely made a lot more sense. Now I understand. Why don't they just make them like that from the factory? Honestly, is there some reason for that?
I don't know. It's a good question. I'm not really sure.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you mentioned tank gripper pads, and I'm gonna try to post this link so that we can get it posted with the show. But I want to ask the audience's opinion and yours as well, Steve. The original, like you can buy from Triumph a set of like tank grip pads
for the Bonnie or for both bikes. I mean, it's
for
the
the
same
Bonneville
tank, right?
Yeah. And they're okay. But they're also they're actually pretty stiff. Like I've kind of been worried that they might not even really work all that well.
Mm-hmm.
But the ones that Joanne Dawn, the gear chick, likes are these what are they called? I'm on their website and I can't even find what they're called. They're by Tech Spec. Oh, Gripster. They're called the Gripster tank grips, and I just dropped a link in the chat for you to take a look at it.
They look kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering like if anybody wants to weigh in and what they think they they look like, if they think they look all right. Because I'm thinking about getting some. Because that's one thing that I always hate, especially in my Revit suit, the nylon against my tank, especially if I've washed my bike and like waxed the tank anytime recently. Uh, I cannot get a grip on the tank, and so when I'm going around corners, I feel like I'm slipping off, and stuff like that.
You know, the funny thing is the ones that were on the 748 look a lot like this. It might have been the exact same company. Now that I'm looking at it,
Yeah, this company makes them for just about every bike. It looks like.
I personally like the way this looks. I don't really. It's not. It's not non-pleasing. As a matter of fact, I think looking at their product, the one that he might have on there is the C3.
Hmm. Yeah.
It has that kind of pattern, or this snakeskin one. It kind of looks like this too.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, it might look okay because on my tank I have that split blue and white tank,
Hmm.
but the portion where the grip goes is all blue anyway, so it wouldn't be like cutting into the white portion of the tank. So I think it would
Well,
probably look all right.
let me see something real quick here because yeah, let's see 748, 916. Let me see something.
Are you going to try to find the bike itself, the one you rode?
Yeah, it's hard to tell really from here. This looks very similar, and it says here they make them for Moto Guzzi too. I was just curious if they make them for the Le Mans. Not that I've ever really found the need on that particular bike, but
It's a V11, right?
they make them V11. Yeah,
Yeah. In
it's
fact, that's apparently
interesting.
the only Gucci they make them for.
Yeah,
Well, you're on your Stelvio, the seat actually
yeah. No, the
goes up
seat's on
far
there on the
enough.
Stelvio.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you don't need to. You don't need to have anything like that on there, but um, no, that's interesting. And those look exactly like the ones he had on his. But he had like almost a three to four piece set. So there were two on the sides. There was something on the top, and then
Yeah.
something on the back of the tank as well. Uh, that was a cool bike, carbon fiber airbox. You know, it had a lot of nice pieces on it. And I don't want to say what he paid for it, but I'm gonna tell you right now, it was a steal. He got the bike for a steal. And this particular guy always happens to find these. Like he's constantly searching Craigslist and eBay, and he bought a VFR, an older one, for like $1,600. You know, just in good shape, running really well.
Man, I've got a I've got a buddy who needs to meet this guy and get get hooked up for his next bike.
It's funny too because you see so many like friends of mine that have gone and buy bikes and they'll tell me about it. And I'm like, oh, you paid what for that? You know, like you could have bought a new bike, dude. You know,
Yeah.
so I think a little bit of research goes a long way, especially when you're looking at ads on eBay and stuff like that. Sometimes Craigslist is great, and other times they just want way too much money for crap that's sitting there. And it's funny, they'll get offended like when you say something about it, like, that's really kind of overpriced on from what you're asking. And it's funny how many people want to get almost top dollar for their motorcycle, almost retail because of the accessories they put on it.
Mhm. Yeah.
And you're usually going to give those away. So if you can, unbolt all the stuff and put all the bike back to stock, especially if you're going to trade it in.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, there was a guy that recently that traded in a VFR with the Corbin seat and that smuggler on the back.
Yeah.
Like that thing's about $800. I think the combination of the seat and that smuggler, he had like $1,500 in it. And I said, put all it back, put it back stock, sell that on eBay. You could probably get at least half of what you paid for that on eBay. And I think he just didn't want to deal with it and let it go like that. But I mean, for the most part, I did the same thing with the V-Strom because I didn't want to take the time to unbolt all the racks off of it in the bags because the bike was 11 years old.
Yeah.
I just, are we going to do anything with it? I want to mess around with it. I'm like, here, I'll trade it in like that. But
I'd be
when you go
if I
on,
ever if I ever went to sell to Bonneville, I'd be screwed. I don't have anything original. Like I've none of the original parts left. But I've been
yeah,
selling them on eBay, so
right. Well, I
I've already
save all
got
the
the money. Yeah.
stuff usually when I do a change. Like when I change the pegs out, I kept the original ones and things like that because I don't think most people. Well, I mean, for instance, on the Tiger, it's got the crash bars on there from
Hmm.
Triumph. It has the low seat and it has the extended windshield and the tank bag from Trap. The tank bag was expensive. It was almost
Yeah.
$200. So if I list that bike, I'm gonna put it all back and then use those pieces as bargaining chips, to get what I'm want to get out of the bike.
Yeah.
We'll see. If someone's looking for a Tiger with low miles on it, that's 2013, they may not care and just say, yeah, I'll take it. But if I have a hard time selling it, then I'll add stuff back in and make it a value-added thing for somebody that's looking for it on Craigslist. But I'm under no illusion to the fact that I might have to lower the price even with that stuff on there to get the bike sold. Which now the more I ride it, the more I kind of like it. But
I did like the brief trip I had on a Tiger 800. I haven't had very long in the saddle on one though.
well, if I keep it, um, really it's my wife's bike, so it's really up to her. But it needs to get bags on it. We never did anything with any type of luggage on it because she didn't like the stock Triumph bags, and they didn't really get a really good review either. They have that floating system on them. Did you ever see that?
No, I've never really seen how they attach.
So they have a bar that runs from the behind the back that goes from bag to bag, and the bags are designed to kind of move back and forth a little bit when you're riding the bike. And
Okay.
everybody kind of complains about the noise that they make and the movement. So she doesn't aesthetically. She didn't like any boxy looking things. Like she didn't want any aluminum cans. She said on the bike. So GV's got some nice, decent looking bags that would match that bike good. But again, I'm not going to worry about it until we finally come to a decision on what's going to happen to it. It's just been enjoyable riding it, because I need to get the Stelvio back running, and I also need to get tires on both the Gucci's right now. Anybody got any recommendation or specifically on the Michelin pilots, the difference between the threes and the fours?
I think
Because
the
I know it's a
um
compound difference. The four supposedly has more, like 12% greater life or something like that.
hmm,
And they talk about these rain sipes that they've got in the tire, but is it
right.
is it worth the money to
I
upgrade to the fours?
I don't. I only the only pilots I ever rode were the twos,
Mm-hmm.
and I think for me, like if I was looking at them right now, I'd probably just stick with whatever's cheaper, and then eventually they'll probably phase out the three, and you'll have to get the four.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
We
I
got
don't know what
a
I'm going to do on the Bonneville. I couldn't tell, but it looked like Avon might be phasing out the rear tire that I use on the Bonneville, and that's the only tire in that size that that goes on the Bonneville then makes sense. All the other ones are like dual sport tires.
really?
Yeah, I've got the tire. The rear wheel on the Bonneville is only 3.5 inches wide,
Mm-hmm.
so you're limited to 130 and 140 tires, and there's not much in the 130. I think there
Doesn't
might
Continental make a tire for that that's like a vintage type tire in that size in a 130 size or not?
maybe but I was going for like modern radial.
That
uh
this is a modern tire. I'll have to look it up real quick. Real quick, we got a couple comments from a listener
yeah
from Mike, and he said that he bought some of those pads for his KZ440, and he said they were cheap. He got them on Amazon. It's cheap but
yeah
effective.
hmm.
He
All
also
right.
has a question on here that this is probably for you because I don't know. It says discuss pros and cons of single carb conversion. I have a bike extremely hard to sink carbs. I'm weighing my opinions on a single carb conversion.
um if it's I don't know exactly what bike you're talking about, but I know that like Triumph sold several models of their bikes where like the where one came as a dual carb and one came as a single carb.
Hmm.
So I mean, depending on the bike, it's definitely doable, and you've only got you don't have anything to sink at that point. You've only got one carb. So I mean, if all the pieces and parts there exist, and it's not some crazy do-it-yourself, like, not that all do-it-yourself things are crazy, but it might be an extremely difficult task to do by yourself. I don't even really know.
Hmm.
Um, I know there's guys that even talked about doing it to the older Bonnevilles, or like the not older, but the new Bonnevilles that were carbureted. Um, there has been discussion about a single carb, modification. But beyond
See,
that, I'm not
that's
really
one thing
sure.
like Guzzi kind of on the V7 series that they were touting the fact that it had a single throttle body on there. I mean, I don't know that much about the way the bikes are set up. How much power do you lose going from a double to a single carburetor?
I don't even know if you do.
So real quick, I stand corrected on those Continental. They're called the Conti Classic Attack.
Yeah.
It's 100, 110, or 120 in
No.
those. And they're either a 19 or an 18, which is the 190, 19 is the front tire, I believe. Um, and they have a 2 version of it, which is, no, here you go. Here's a 130. Conti Road Attack 2 Classic Race. Well, it's a race tire. But they make a 130 80 18 or a 150 65 18. I
Okay.
don't know if that's something you're interested in.
Yeah, I'm
But
not sure. Um, my guess, if Mike, I'm seeing you mention it's an 81 KZ 440. Um, I'm guessing if you listen to the show, you're probably relatively internet proficient, especially if you're able to use the Q&A on Google Hangouts. And you may have already read this, but there's a forum post on the single carb conversion over at the KZ Rider forum. Um, I'm not sure how to get that link to you, but it's out there. If you just Google
you can post it on the
KZ440
Facebook. You
single
want to send it
carb.
to me and I'll post it on the Facebook page real quick?
Yeah, sure.
The notes for me and I'll put it over there, Mike, for you. Um, yeah, that's something I can't really talk about because
My body's fuel injected. So
and what are you using to try to do the sync, Mike? Are you using a carb tuner or something, or just something old school? Let me go ahead and I'll post this link real quick for him. Mike, if you go to our Facebook page, I'm going to put it up on the page right now. And
to be honest, carburetors scare me a little bit. Only because I've never dealt with them very much.
well, you
I
heard my
mean,
story about carburetors on the Bandit, right?
yeah, I think so.
Where I destroyed a whole bank of carburetors because I thought I knew what I was doing when I rebuilt them, and when I put the jets back in, I put them in backwards and just
Oh,
destroyed the entire bank of carburetors, and so I learned my lesson there. I'm one of those idiots that'll try stuff even though I have no freaking clue what I'm doing. So, I'm not doing that anymore now. If it's, I'd like to be able to learn that. That's why I really wish there was one of these co-op garages somewhere here
yeah, there's
because
one here, but I haven't tried, haven't tried yet.
like electrical stuff or throttle bodies and fuel injection, I'm not messing with any of that. But there are guys on the VStrom on the Guzzi Tech forum that continuously remap their bikes. They've got the diagnostic software and the connection to a laptop and everything. And
Yeah,
because
I've got
Guzzi's
that for the
relative.
Bonnie.
Have you done it before?
Yeah, I've done the remap a couple times. It's
With
really
what, like a
simple.
map you downloaded from somebody? Because I know you bought
Yeah,
some maps from one of our sponsors, right?
I actually didn't have to buy that map. But yeah, I got when I bought my exhaust and stuff like that because British Customs does this thing where they sell like I can't remember if they call it the power pack or whatever. It's basically airbox removal, exhaust, uh, secondary air injection blank off, and if you have carbs, jets, like an appropriate size jet for that
Mm-hmm.
setup, or if you have the fuel injected one and the software, they'll give you a tune for free. They just send it to you. And so I had that one for a little while that I'd run, and then the guys over at Triumph Twin Power, Mike, um, sent me a tune to try out to see if it worked a little better,
Mm-hmm.
which is one of his tunes that he developed for a bike with basically all the same engine and exhaust and whatever mods that I have. So,
What'd you think?
um,
Noticeable?
I'm not I don't have like a very calibrated butt dyno,
Mm-hmm.
um, but It
What
runs
about
fine.
what about smoothness? I mean, did it change the
I
fuel delivery where it's smoother
I
or?
definitely think that especially like immediately off, like fully closed throttle feels
Mhm.
better than it did with the other tunes that I've had. Um, but uh,
Because
other
this
than
is
that,
something I've been considering. Um, the the 10A's got a Power Commander 2 in it with it's either Stay Tune or Mistral exhaust with a Stucci Luigi X tube that's on the bottom. And that bike runs great, but I don't have anything to compare it to because I never rode the bike before it was changed over. I got it that way. So
right?
there's a company called Guzzi Tech, and they make a system that's a package system. And I'm going to tell you what you get in it real quick here because I'm actually been considering this. And let me tell you what this is real quick here.
Something else that like if you're a Triumph guy that Mike does, and I'm sure there are other companies that do this too for other bikes, but if you don't have the software or you don't feel comfortable using the software and plugging your bike into the laptop and doing it yourself, you can pull your ECU out and mail it to him, and he'll program the tune on it for you and send it back.
So that's kind of what this is. So what they have here is a kit with a Power Commander 5, an Auto Tune 300, their GTRX 5 AM ECU reflash and oxygen sensors. And I don't know how much you know about the DynoJet Auto Tune, but it tunes on the fly, right?
Yeah, yeah, it like measures air fuel ratio and then
Right, right.
adjusts.
So this, a complete system, it says, includes the AutoTune 300 dual Bosch wideband O2 sensors to replace the OEM narrowband sensors and their ECU. And they take your ECU, they do a reflash, but they kind of, it's really funny because the ECU looks different. So they obviously do something to it as well. Now this kit's not cheap. It's $1,119, $1,120 for this kit. But people that I know that have on the forum that have got this says it completely transforms the motorcycle. So the riding experience, it's like when you talk to guys who talk about getting their suspension set the right way for the first time, it's like riding a different bike. That's what they talk about this. And there's some roughness in that motor, like around 4,000 RPMs that you just kind of get used to and you think it's the character of the motor, but they say that's all gone. Now, I don't know if they've gotten the same results by just doing the Guzzi diagnostic software with just a remap of the stock bike, but this is interesting to me. I keep looking at it, going, is it to me? Is if I keep the bike and I'm going to put a ton of miles on it, is it worth doing something like this? I'm going to do a little bit more research on it and see. That's a big ticket item though. That's a lot of money, especially when I go through tires like I do. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll kind of keep you in the loop on this. And Mike said thanks for the link. He is using a carb tuner. He said yes. So hopefully that'll help him out. He said he posted a pic on the.
Yeah, he posted a pic of his KZ. I just looked at it. It looks good.
Let me take a look at that. That's a bike I always liked. Cool.
I don't think you can hear it happening because if you could, I would see the video feed change back over to me, but there's a child like screaming with glee outside.
I can hear that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the kind of stuff I like seeing. Or guys that have built these bikes and put them together. That's kind of neat.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. That's what I need to do. I need to get a project bike going, but I need to clean all my wife's stuff out of the garage and make it a garage again.
Yeah, I want to get a second like daily rider so that I can start to do more extreme things to the Triumph.
Well, would you get another Triumph? Would you go to a Bonnie, or would you do something different?
Like if I bought another daily
A
rider kind of
daily
bike.
rider, yeah, like a commuting bike.
I'm thinking like 250 dual sport.
Yeah, we talked about that. I kind of like that idea too. Maybe a little bit
Yeah.
bigger for me. Maybe a 400.
Yeah, I
There's a lot
mean,
of bikes I'd like to have. I keep threatening to buy that Continental GT too, but
that
I
thing's
don't think I'm
pretty
gonna.
cool. I either 250 or 400 dual sport. Like the only reason I kind of lean towards a 250 is the newer ones are fuel injected.
Right.
If Suzuki did a pretty serious update on their DR 400 or something, um, I'd be pretty excited about it. But I think actually, is it Husky? I think it's Husky that's got like a because it's Husky's the one that was bought by the owner of KTM, right? I think
Yep.
so.
Hmm.
They're supposedly releasing like a 350 and a 500 or 550 uh, enduro bike that's street legal, and I'm
At
really
what at,
curious.
at what price though?
I
That's what.
don't know. There's the price, and there's also the fact that if it's like KTM's 350 and 550 street legal offering, it's barely street legal, and it's still an off-road race bike, which is
Okay, let me
really
look and see
cool
here.
unless you want to drive it
100
to
bikes.
work every day. Where if Husky releases a nice tame 350 or 500 that it could produce some decent power, but isn't like bleeding edge racing kind of
Right.
technology, then I
Right.
would be more that'd be more my kind of bike. I want something that I don't have that I change the oil every 3,000 miles, not every 300 miles. Um,
So I keep looking at, and I'm looking in their enduro bikes right now, and nothing that they have listed right now is a street legal bike
Husqvarna.
on on Husky. Yeah, right now.
Yeah, I heard it was like a rumor or something I read somewhere that they were going to be
And I'm
looking
wondering if
into
they're
that.
just going to rebadge something else, but that I don't think so because there's nothing in the well, maybe. This is the thing too. Like I've been looking at a lot of KTM's used on the ADV site that are street legal that are older bikes, but for like between $2,000 and $3,000. Some really nice ones. There's a
Yeah,
lot of aftermarket stuff on them that would be cool to have. That I could do a lot of these dual sport rides, like in the Ocala National Forest and things like that. There's a group out of Florida called Dixie Dual Sporters. And they'll do some rides where they say you can ride the big adventure bikes on there, but it's just not fun on those
yeah.
big bikes. So
I just shot you another link. 2015 Husqvarna FE350S and FE501S.
okay, so the FE350s and the FE501s are currently listed, but they're not. Did you say S as in Sam?
Yeah,
That's probably the street version of it, right?
yeah, probably.
Yeah. Because the bike's got a light on it. It's an enduro bike. There's no turn signals on it, and it comes with full knobbies. So let me see if maybe they're just looking at putting a street type tire on this thing, or and then putting turn signals on it. Do they talk about that? Taking those same two bikes, the FE350 and the 501, and yeah, okay. So if you look at it, it's
Mm-hmm.
probably a dot road legal knobby. They've got mirrors and turn signals on the bike.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How much is one of those right now? Like the non-street legal one?
Uh,
Does it say?
Let me see. The 501 is. It's funny too because this motor, I know some guys that have actually raced this bike in a different chassis, that 501 motor in a like
Mm-hmm.
a road racing chassis.
Oh, nice.
On the website, let me see. Doesn't list it, but I'm gonna hit find a dealer real quick and see if anyone's got a price on it.
We'll see
Okay,
who's.
so actually my local, the WMR competition, which is the local KTM dealer, is listed as a Husky dealer.
Oh, nice.
Let me see if they have it on their website.
I'm seeing 10 grand, like 98.99
Yeah, forget that, man. That's
for
just
the
for the
501, which
501. What is the other one?
I'll have to back up and look at it. Um, where are you?
That's a lot. That's KTM pricing,
Yeah,
if not a little bit more, really.
which doesn't really surprise me
A
that
DRZ
much.
400's, $6,200 for the S model.
Yeah, I can't
Which,
find the silly price.
and then you look at, like I said, you look at the stuff that's going on ADV Rider for between two to $4,000, I would say. And let's see here,
Yeah.
DRZ.
I'm looking to hopefully pick up something, in like the $2,000 to $4,000
Yeah.
range. Like if that's one of the reasons I'm looking at like something like the Honda CRF 250L.
Hmm.
Because I'm gonna look up what they are new right now, but I want to say they're like maybe five new. If
It might
I'm
be the 250.
Yeah,
Let me look
almost
real quick
there.
here.
They're $49.99, brand new.
What do you think of a DR650 as well?
I think they're really nice. It's bigger than what I kind of want to go with right now.
Hmm.
I mean, I would, because I'm kind of looking at something really small that I can go to work and then go ride some trails on to get that's as light as I can possibly get it, so that when I do stupid things and crash, I can pick it right back up and keep going. Because I mean, when I did that dirt class a couple months ago, like
Right.
right after Overland Expo, and I don't think I mentioned this. One of the things that the instructor, I can't remember his name. It wasn't Gary. It was one of his other instructors. But his instructor did some things to get my confidence up, and then intentionally took me out and made me crash. Just
In what way? I mean, like, what did he
he
do? Throw you off the side of a cliff or something like that? What
no
did he do?
he rode, because he's a motocross guy. Like he rode pro motocross for a long time, so he can get the speed up pretty good. So he intentionally rode out of my ability to keep up,
Mhm.
knowing that he said he does this every time. He said because he said he wants new riders to get a feel for what it's like to crash in something like the sand where it's pretty soft.
Right,
So
right,
you
right.
kind of, so you're like, okay, that didn't hurt too bad, and keep going. And so we did some instruction, rode some little exercises, and then he intentionally rode faster than I could keep up, knowing that I would try to keep up. Um, and I did, and I crashed.
And
like
what'd you do?
I
Wash out the front? I mean, how did?
Yeah, I washed
Yeah.
out the front in some sand, fell down in
Okay.
like some grassy sand, uh, didn't hurt anything, got right back up, picked the bike up, and rode to catch up with him. And he said that he uses that kind of to not only to get me to kind of like remember like some of the to kind of learn what we'll learn from my mistakes, but also to kind of see how I'm going to react.
Right.
He's like, if he said if I had fell over and then just laid there, like, what the heck am I going to do now, kind of thing. He said maybe he would have changed his tactics in terms of like trying to get me to come along, like the instruction or whatever. But since I just hopped up and was like, all right, cool, got him back on the bike. He's like, yeah, all right, this guy's good. He'll be easy to teach or whatever.
Okay, now let's change the subject real quick. We're talking about the same bikes. I just found an '09 FE 570, which I didn't know they made a 570, farkled out in Southern California.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, 2,400 original miles, California plated, so it's street legal. It's got
yeah,
lights, brake on there. Um, it's got a bunch of stuff on here, and the guy's asking 5,700 or less. He
hmm,
says on
that's not
here.
bad.
I'm sorry, 5,900 or a little less. But that's a little bit newer, so even a little bit older bike, and that's a big
Yeah,
bike though. I mean, I would even look for like the 350, but
yeah,
and they're out there, and the funny thing is everything that I've found is always out west. It's either in California or someplace out there. I might not be looking hard enough, but
yeah. I found the same thing though. I mean, a lot of it's out here, and if you were
listen, here's
depending
one
on the
right here.
bike.
'05 WR 458F plated in West Virginia.
Oh, there you go.
$3,300.
That bike's gonna get up and move. That WR
Yeah.
450 is fast.
Right. High-low headlight, turn signals, mirror horn, brake light, 3.3 gallon tank, handguards resprung. It looks nice. 1,000 miles on it, it says, for $3,300. That's kind of what I was looking for, something like that.
Yeah. The reason that I would personally that I would shy away from like the DR 650 or the KLR 650 is just the weight. Um, my master plan is to ride a 250 for a little while or a 400.
Hmm.
Um, get comfortable, and then buy a little adventure bike like a 650 or something like that. Something that I can travel longer distances on, and has a big fat comfy seat, stuff like that.
I don't, that the long distance travel thing on those bikes kind of scares me just because of how big I am. So I know a lot of guys do it, and they set the bikes up so they're really comfortable, but I think it might get, I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it, but to me it might get a little old on a smaller bike like that. Remember I told you I rode the DRZ 400 and felt like it was way undersprung for me too. That's the other issue.
Yeah.
So I
It
don't know if
probably
I'd have
was.
to.
I mean, most motorcycle manufacturers, I mean, they kind of plan for a 180-pound rider, with gear, like including gear. That's kind of what they set their springs for. So, a DRZ with the right spring rates and stuff like that would probably feel a lot different.
Yeah. We've had this conversation, and I had it recently too about the 10As going and taking it in. As soon as again, I need tires for that too, but as soon as I get new shoes on it, taking it to CompuTrack and having them set the bike up, just setting the sag for now. Then I'm going to put all the settings back to stock and then ride it and then make some adjustments on it, because it's not, that bike was probably set for a guy at 160 pounds.
Yeah.
And more than a couple of people have told me that Gucci's are typically way undersprung to begin with. So,
yeah, I rode that V7, the Stone, and it felt pretty squishy,
sloppy. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm the average weight for their, the typical average rider weight. So
what do you know about Husabergs? We're all over the place here right now, but I'm looking.
That's fine.
You got me looking at bikes right now.
I know that they exist, and I know that I don't know if they sell them in the States anymore.
There's a couple used ones on here too.
Or if they're even in business anymore. But there's one of the Triumph dealerships here in town used to also be a Husaberg dealer.
Right.
And they still have Husaberg up on their wall, and I walked in and said, "Hey, you guys sell those things?" They're like, "Yeah, they don't sell them in the States anymore," or something like that. It was either that or they went out of business. I don't remember.
There's a TE250 Husky for sale. It's right around the corner from you. It's in Anchorage.
Oh yeah, it's only a couple
hours, right?
Miles away. Well, my wife and I were talking about going on vacation to Alaska. I can just go up there and ride at home.
Florida, and we think about California. I think San Diego and San Francisco are like right next to each other.
Dude, I get it. Like I felt the same way until I moved out here.
I think Seattle to San Diego is like a day's ride. It's like, oh, it's right there. It's right.
Yeah, it's 1,800 miles.
Right now.
Or something like that. It's like 16 or 1,800 miles. Are you taking a bike
up there for that? You gonna ride up? Are you gonna fly up for that? Are they taking you up there?
Oh yeah, I'll be on the ship.
You're gonna take the ship from San Diego so you got to stay on the ship the whole time?
Yeah.
So you ain't bringing a bike.
No, I'm not bringing anything. I'm taking clothes and maybe my laptop. I've been waffling on the laptop. I'm definitely taking my Kindle, but I don't even know if I'm going to take my laptop.
Oh, wait till you see what I just found.
Yeah, my wife will be pissed about whatever it is.
Shh, don't. You didn't say.
Speaking of angry wives, the guy with the Bonneville that has one at work, he bought it from another guy that used to fly at the same squadron, and it's an '08, so it's the year before mine. It's spoke wheels, last year of carbureted bikes. He's got the Predators on there, and that's what were on it when he bought it. And originally when I bought the pipes I had been worried that I wouldn't like the sound of the Predators, and so I bought the ones that I got.
Right.
And now that I've heard his, I really, really like them a lot. They have a much more aggressive sound compared to mine. But
the Fun Police said no.
No, they're about the same loudness of mine. But anyway, no, his Fun Police, there haven't been really any other mods. It still has its airbox, which is a really common thing to remove on those, and all these other things that he wants to put Clubmans on it and stuff like that. And he's seen mine, and he didn't even know it was a Bonneville, because of all the things I've done. It could go either way. Like, well, what did it originally start as? Is kind of everybody's question. Um, and I sent him an email the other day because he was talking about removing the fender and stuff like that. And so I sent him a link. I was like, oh, here's a link for one that a fender eliminator that somebody took off their bike that looks still in really good condition.
Hmm.
And he emailed me back. He's like, oh, cool. My wife already hates you.
Right. It's really funny because they, and I know I'm going to get trashed for this, but like the single guys that come and hang out and everything, like the guy that bought the Ducati today, he lives in a townhouse and all the motorcycles are inside the townhouse. That ain't happening with a wife. Like when my wife met me, I was living with my cousin and another guy in a really nice house in this really nice section of South Florida, and we had like motorcycles everywhere. My cousin used to race ATVs when the 200X was out, the Honda. So
Mm-hmm.
you walked. This was a big 4-bedroom house in a gated community, and you walked into the house and looked over into the living room, and there's cardboard all over. This is the God's honest truth, over the white carpeting in there, and my cousin's 200X like completely pulled apart, because he's working on the motor and putting a new piston and everything. And then there's bikes all over the garage. There's motorcycle parts everywhere. Man, that was just like heaven. It was that, and motorcycles and guns were everywhere in that house. And yeah, you can't have that with the fun police living there. There's like no more. And so many times we'll talk about stuff at the gas station. The guy was like, yeah, well, if I didn't have a wife, I'd have that. And I know this is going to turn out really badly for me, but it's the truth. You see what I just sent you?
I did. Yeah, this KTM looks real nice.
Yeah, street legal, titled.
It's in North Carolina. You could just
Uh,
stay with the family and go pick it up.
I can go get, and she's there. I'll just call her and tell her to bring this home for me. Hey,
I've
that'll
actually got,
work.
I've got family in Charlotte too.
Hey, babe, swing by there and go pay this guy for this bike that I really don't need, but I want, and bring it home.
Yeah. That I do not remotely need.
Right.
Yeah, this would be more bike than I'd need for what I want
It
to do.
probably is for me too, honestly. This is probably more than I could, unless I really learned how to ride it well. And this would be a great bike for, like I said, those dual sport events that they have here in Florida.
Yeah, I don't know what KTM's maintenance interval is, but my buddy had one of those Aprilia 550 dual sports that they sold for a little bit,
Hmm.
and you're supposed to change the oil every 500 miles, and he rode his to work.
You got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
500 miles?
Mm-hmm. A lot of like dirt
That's a
dirt
week.
bikes.
That's every week I'd have to change the oil.
Yeah. Because a lot of like true dirt bikes have a tiny sump. Like the race bikes, they have a really small sump, so they don't have very much oil going around in there. So you got to change it all the time because their engines are pushing like really high compression
Right.
and really high spec everything, and then no oil.
Right.
Um,
Well, I can see that on racing, because
yeah,
that would be, that's a lot of races, right?
yeah. I mean, and if you're like really hardcore racing, they usually just change it every time.
Right.
Like every weekend they've got new oil in the bike. But
No, for this crap I got to put in Stelvio, it's $17 a liter.
yeah,
4 liters of pop.
um,
You know, holy cow.
yeah. I mean, it's just because they have such a small capacity and they're just chewing through it. I mean, even like a little Yamaha TW200, like a little play bike, those things, I think the recommended change is 1,000 miles because the sump is so small.
Right.
It
I
only
guess that makes sense.
it holds like 1.5 liters or 2 liters.
Right, right. That makes sense. I mean, the dirt bike that I had years ago it never really got ridden like it should have been. It was more of a trail bike. I had a Mako Sand Spider, the 490 Sand Spider that I got used from a buddy of mine that was like a box of parts when I got it. And it's kind of funny because those bikes now, they Arma, that vintage dirt bike class, they race those things. There's a buddy of mine who lives out here by me that's really big into that vintage dirt bike. He doesn't own a street bike. He just likes vintage motocross racing. And you see a lot of those old Makos running
How do
in
you
there.
spell Mako?
Maico, I believe. Hold on a second. I believe it is German.
Ah, yeah. Okay,
I'm
because
probably
I,
pronouncing
I
it wrong.
I googled Mako, like Mako, and then
No.
sand spider, and I got pictures of actual sand spiders.
Yeah, no.
Like those are gross. I don't want to see that.
Yeah, I'll tell you the one. I'll actually throw up a picture of the one that I had.
Little 490 single rear shock. That looks nice.
Yeah, it was a cool bike. It was that red and yellow.
Mm-hmm.
It was neat.
I rode. I've talked about it some, but I rode my buddy's. Wait, that's a two stroke?
Mm-hmm. It was a
Oh,
two-stroke. Yeah.
yeah. I rode my buddy's. He has a little Suzuki SP 250. It's a four-stroke dual sport 250 from the 80s that Suzuki
Mm-hmm.
made. It was like the first year they had a single shock in the rear, on that bike anyway. Uh, and that thing was perfect. I mean, I really do think that, everybody I ask is like, oh no, Yamaha TW200 wouldn't be good enough. You'd outgrow it in like 10 minutes. But and I mean they might be right about some of it, but I don't want to go out and like hit jumps or race down trails. I just want to kind of putt around the woods.
Right.
You
Right.
know?
Yeah, I'm not going to be doing any true, dirt bike riding, but enduro and trail riding would be fun, I think, especially these things that they have here. And in North Carolina, they've got them. In Georgia, they've got them. That'd be a lot of fun. Like you get,
Yeah.
and I think it's just going to make you an all-around better rider too when you learn how to ride a dirt bike properly as well.
Yeah.
These guys that came off dirt bikes originally and raced them and everything, they've got a good feel and a good confidence level for the bike. And, that's the other thing too. You brought up a really good point, and I think it is a lot of people's trepidation about having the motorcycle is that fear of what happens if they are going to dump the bike over. I'm not talking about getting in a crash with a vehicle or something like that, but I'm saying just, riding off road a little bit. What's going to happen if I fall? So you're right. That was probably a good lesson that you learned on that.
Yeah. I learned it. It
Um,
doesn't hurt so bad.
right. Speaking of dumping bikes over, I guess I got to admit, I actually last Saturday, riding in the rain in a parking lot of a restaurant, I made a really sharp U-turn on the
Mm.
Stelvio and looked to my side because a car was coming and grabbed the front brake and tipped the bike over.
Mm.
Like, I'm an idiot in front of these people in the restaurant, and shut the bike off. My buddies helped me lift it up. There's not a mark on it. It made contact with the bags, the rubber pieces on the bottom of the bags, and the handguard, and there's that bike literally doesn't, because of the engine guards and the motor and the bags, it doesn't really fall over. It kind of like sits on its side, a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just getting it up and it was fine. I mean, I felt like an idiot because I wasn't really paying attention to what I was doing. I've done that sharp U-turn a million times and usually weight the pegs the right way, but I was distracted for a second and didn't think about it and dumped it over, and
Yeah, I
I
did the
was
exact
surprised.
same thing on a demo R1200 GS once.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Did it have bags on it or not?
Yeah, it had everything. So it didn't even it just ended up on its cylinder head. Like on
Yeah,
the crash guard around the cylinder head.
right,
You couldn't
right.
even tell anything happened to it. And it made
It's
it all the
funny.
way to the handlebars when it tipped over. Like it tipped over around the cylinder head and bounced off the handlebars and then rocked back.
Have you seen these, like, for lack of a better term, these like sliders, but they're not really. You know how on the old skates they had the brake in the front, this big knobby
Hmm.
thing on the front of a skate? Well, they have these things that go on the crash bar now. Have you seen these on the side for like the
Yeah,
adventure bikes?
the little slider puck things.
Yeah, but it's like a big giant knob sticking out of either side of this thing that you could
Right.
literally lay the bike over onto. At that point, nothing's going to happen to it because that.
It's kind of like uh it's like frame sliders for a sport bike, but attached onto the crash bars.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. They're huge, kind of goofy looking. Anyway,
Giant
we,
Delrin
we-
cylinders.
we've gotten pretty long here today. You got anything else you want to talk about? I know there's something I'm forgetting, but I can save it for next episode.
Yeah, there's almost always something I'm forgetting. Hopefully, the next episode probably not going to be on time because I'm going to be gone for it looks like about 3 weeks.
Okay.
Um, so
What are the dates you're going?
I should be home by the 11th of August.
All right. So that'll work because, well, it actually might be 4 weeks
That's
because
We'll figure it
I,
out.
I leave on August 9th. The 11th is what, a Monday?
Yep.
Yeah, I leave on August 9th for the National Fire Academy for a week. I will
Where's
be in
that at?
Emmitsburg, Maryland, the National
Oh,
Emergency Training Center, National Fire Academy in Emmitsburg. Really, really beautiful place. It's really close to Camp David.
oh, cool.
So I have to go for a class for a week. And when do you leave?
Wednesday.
That's right around the corner. Okay, we'll
Yep.
figure it out.
Yeah,
Maybe we can do a single episode each and bring a guest on. What do you think about that?
I could try to do that. Yeah.
So I'll do
I've
something while
actually
you're
been.
gone, and then you do something while I'm gone.
Yeah, I think we can do that.
I got
Um,
I got a couple guys I met that I was gonna talk about some trips that they went on too that were interesting and maybe just local guests, so it's not any really good information. What do you think?
if I could find my camera, I'd get that silly video I made up too. I don't know what happened to it. My 2.5-year-old terrorist probably picked it up and then hid it somewhere.
It's funny because my granddaughter, as soon as she turned 2, turned into a terrorist as well. There must be some underground organization that they get to them somehow
Yeah, like the
because she
2-year-old
really
Illuminati.
literally, yeah, she's doing really. I was sitting at my son's house and we're sitting on the sofa, my son, his wife, and him, and we're watching TV. And he's got a white sofa, and luckily he's got like a cover on it. But she's looking at him at the end of the sofa, and as she's looking at him, she's concealing her hand, and she's got a crayon, and she's drawing on the sofa as she's looking at him, like you can't really see me doing this. He's like, "Oh no, you didn't just draw on the sofa, did you?" Yeah, of course she did. Like a red
Yeah.
crayon right on the sofa. So of
Real
course I
quick.
just laugh.
Yeah. Real quick, I want to thank Dave, Chris, James, Travis, and Rob once again for being our bosses over at patreon.com.
Thank you
Um,
guys. We really appreciate it, and we're gonna put some stuff together for you.
yeah, everything is still in work. We're working on it. If there were enough of you that this was our only job, I promise things would happen faster. But so far, there's not enough of you that either of us could just walk away from what we do.
We're not
So,
retiring anytime soon.
so the day job has to prevail, and mine is especially forceful at times. Like I got this notice that I was going to San Diego like 4 days ago. They called or Seattle. They're like, "Hey, you want to go on a date to Seattle?" I'm like, "What if I say no?" They're like, "You're going anyway." I said, "All right. Well,
Right.
I guess it's a good thing that I do actually kind of want to go."
How long is the cruise to get there?
Um, it varies. It sounds like we're gonna take more days than I think it should to get there, like 5 days or something like that.
Right.
Um, but you could do it in two if they wanted to like go, full bore kind of the whole time. But we've got a couple of things going on along the way. Like they're going to be running a lot of drills and stuff like that.
hmm
So they're going
I'm
to
not
take their
gonna.
time.
I'm not gonna ask you what ship you're gonna be on. What type of ship are you gonna be on? Do you know?
Yeah. It's an amphibious assault ship.
Okay.
So it's the kind of ship that, for those of you that are listening that don't know what that is, it's got a flat deck for landing helicopters and vertical takeoff aircraft. So like the Harrier
hmm
on top, and then it's got a big hangar bay underneath that for storing aircraft, and it has a large troop area for having embarked Marines. So you could carry an entire Marine Expeditionary Unit on one of these.
In
Um,
Amtrak, that's what they have in there.
yeah, we've
Yeah.
got room for hovercraft and or any sort of amphibious craft.
Right.
Um,
If you guys want to see actually what he's talking about, if you have Apple TV or what's the other one? Roku,
mhm.
the Smithsonian Channel actually has a really cool episode about amphibious assault craft, and they really go in depth of showing them bringing a hovercraft in and out, and the Amtrak's in and out, and flooding the bay and all that. It's really kind of neat. It was really interesting. So if you're into that kind of stuff, the military stuff that Chris does, that's a pretty cool episode. It gives you a good idea of how sophisticated this thing is. It's neat.
Yeah, we're not taking, since we're just going to Seattle, we're not invading a beach. We're taking like one or two of our helicopters and then a couple Marine helicopters just as displays, and we're all kind of just display aircraft. And then no, like we're not taking 3,000 Marines, like we could,
Mhm.
because
So, are
Seattle isn't really a foreign country we're trying to take over.
you sure?
Um,
It
it's
might
it,
be.
it seems like a totally different world up there sometimes, but you know,
All right.
it's at least as American as Canada.
Enough making fun of Seattle. Canada's American? I didn't know that. I guess it is. Yeah.
Not really. They're
All
North
right.
American.
So we
They're
managed to
nicer
get
than
through
we
an
are.
episode without really making fun of Harley Davidson. So
We did. We talked pretty well about them.
yeah, right. Okay.
Anyway, if you would like to become a sponsor of the show as well and get in on some of the cool perks that these guys are eagerly awaiting, you can head over to patreon.com/Cafe Racer Podcast, or just go to caferacerpodcast.com and click support the show. All the money that we get is going into making the show better and getting some cool like stickers and T-shirts and coffee mugs and whatever.
My phone's going to ring any second here.
So
I was going to say, too, check us out on Twitter at Cafe Racer Pod, and we're on Instagram at Cafe Racer Podcast, and our Facebook page at Cafe Racer Podcast.
Yep.
We really encourage you guys, if you got any builds going on, to post them on there.
Yeah, and you can find each of us on Twitter as well. I'm at Cafe Racer X. Steve,
so annoying.
Steve is at SP Grasso.
No, my Twitter's Steven Grasso.
Oh, is it? That's right. Yeah, it's Steven Grasso. Sorry, with a PH.
With a
not
PH.
an F or a V or any other letters.
All right. I guess I got to call my son back because he's called myself in the house now, so it must be some dire emergency.
Yeah.
Hey, sorry about the last episode, too. Crash had a dire emergency he had to take care of, so we had a short episode, but that was fine.
Thanks again for listening. Now get out and ride.
See you guys.